What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, we're going to be going over some awesome setups in the market tomorrow. We have some more big news related to Apple and their battle with China. On top of that, we have some more interesting news related to Tesla. And towards the end of the video, we have a $1 million big money hedge fund trade that you won't want to miss. So you guys better stick with us all the way to the end. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into today's episode.
Yeah, Mike, the overall market today was very choppy, but we actually opened up very low again. We had that big drop to the downside, and it was actually Apple once again kind of taking over that downwards price action, and Apple actually ran all the way down to the 174 support that I've had on my chart for a little while. Now we're kind of coming back up a little bit. I actually think that Apple might kind of pop back up tomorrow in the next couple days, maybe just because of all this selling pressure. Like we might come up and retest 180 to 182. Then I think we might drop a little bit lower. But that drop this morning was pretty rough. And once again, it was on some crazy China news, Mike. And, you know, we're coming out of China. They're actually going to be broadening that iPhone ban to state firms and agencies. Now, they haven't done this yet, but that is a pretty scary thing. And you would think if they're just extending this ban, it's going to scare a lot of citizens from buying it as well. And as we talked about, this makes up 20% of Apple's revenue. So that is a huge sign for Apple here and a big stab to them, honestly. You know, China's kind of hitting them hard.
Exactly. So a lot of people know Apple as the powerhouse, and rightfully so, but, you know, one of their biggest markets, which is China, just like Tom said, you know, making up for about 20% of their sales, is kind of stabbing them right in the back right now because, you know, as we saw yesterday, you know, Chinese government officials won't be able to use iPhones anymore, but now it looks like China's expanding that ban to, you know, state-owned companies, and, you know, that's just the plan so far, but the much bigger fear here, Tom, is if this is the start of something much worse. You know, if China is, you know, banned iPhones from government workers and now is looking to ban iPhones from state-owned employees, are they just going to ban iPhones overall? I don't know. It's probably a stretch, but either way, it's just not something you want to see in terms of Apple as like a shareholder and in terms of like, you know, foreign markets, but it also poses a very big risk for like Apple manufacturing, as a lot of their factories are in China. So, you know, it's kind of like a bad position to be in for Apple, where it's like, you know, a country that you've been working pretty closely with over all these years is just stabbing you right in the back.
Yeah, they are, and it's terrible. And I know that Apple's probably been pissing China off on the other side of things as well. I know that they've actually been trying to change production from China over to India, and they're kind of shifting that manufacturing over there. There was actually an article that just came out on August 17th, and it kind of explained this. And I know that they've talked about this a little bit in the past, and they're literally trying to diversify their global production away from China. And I don't know if that's maybe causing China to do this, or maybe if they maybe foresaw some of this stuff going on and they kind of said, hey, we're going to start shifting our production over there. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Apple does and how much of their manufacturing really does shift. Because I know those iPhones, they've been notoriously known for being made in China. Now they're going to be notoriously known for being made in India potentially if China keeps this up.
Yeah, so we will see. Either way, all eyes are on Apple stock right now. It is pretty rare to see this one falling, and this week was definitely pretty red for Apple. Not only did it get slapped right in the face yesterday, but it also closed lower today. Its gap down this morning was pretty nasty, and I'll give it to Apple. It held up pretty strong throughout the day, but it still closed down by around 3%. So either way, you have to keep a close eye on this one. It is pretty rare to see it move like this, and you know, when it moves like this, it has a direct impact across the whole market.
Yeah, and actually at the low of day today, it was very close to 5% at the low. So that was a 5% drop on the powerhouse Apple. So definitely keep that in the back of your minds. And Mike, you know, we have all these stocks falling down. There's been a lot of people lately talking about, recessions and rate hikes going on and etc. I've actually been keeping an eye on the FedWatch tools lately. There's actually been an uptick in the potential for a rate hike for November. We can see 43.4% right there on the number. And I actually have the data from August 15th. I screenshotted it and saved it. And we can see that the November data was coming in at 36.2%. December had a 31.9% chance of a hike. These numbers just keep rising, and we're going to get another CPI event actually coming out next week, and that's going to be another big thing to keep on the radar. It's going to be Wednesday, September 13th. We're going to get that inflation rate, and they're actually forecasting it to rise again. And if that happens, that rate hike chance will probably go above 50% and possibly be priced in there. So I can't wait to see what happens, Mike, but the next couple weeks are going to be crazy, and so far September has been brutal enough already. So I wonder if it's just going to add more fuel to the fire.
Exactly. So, while we all look at Apple, it's hard to ignore its crazy cousin, Tesla, that had a decent day today. It started out with a pretty strong gap down, just like Apple, but I'll tell you, it held pretty strong, and, it basically closed unchanged. But what's pretty interesting is this data by Charlie Bolello on Twitter showing the average price of a used Tesla. So, basically for 13 months now, the average price of a used Tesla has just been dropping quicker than basically any stock. It's been dropping quicker than VinFast stock over the past week, but that thing's getting destroyed. But either way, in July of 2022, a used Tesla costs around 68 grand. Now, a used Tesla is at a record low price of around, we'll call it 41,500, right? So it has been plummeting, and this isn't necessarily Tesla's fault by any means, but I guess it just goes to show you more into how the used car market is doing overall. And I think this number is more impacted by the economy than anything else, but it's just something that I found interesting and wanted to showcase relevant to Tesla stock.
Yeah, and Tesla doing all those price cuts probably isn't helping anything either, of course, because if they do price cuts and people can just buy a brand new Tesla for cheaper, why would they, go for a used one of such caliber? But yeah, I mean, that is a steep drop on the chart, and it kind of is getting back to like where we should have been, right? Because if we didn't have that crazy happenstance, you would think that the used car price would probably just trend slowly down and probably be somewhere around where we are now. So at least it's coming back to reality a little bit. And I know Tesla's actually planning to come out with a new version of their Model 3 sometime soon. And they're actually doing a lot of price cuts, I hear, to try to get rid of some of the Model 3s they currently have. So maybe that'll be a nice thing whenever they get that refresh going, a nice new look or something like that would be a big thing for the Model 3, in my opinion. It's been pretty dull, honestly, the past few years.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the new one looks like. But Tom, looking at the market right now, we're kind of in a period where, we're seeing like a lot of choppy movement. The bears are not fully in control just yet. And at the same time, it feels like every single week, the bulls are getting more and more worn out. Looking at the market right now, specifically on SPY, what are you seeing in terms of technicals? What are important levels that you're looking forward to? And what are your thoughts on the current setup?
Yeah, I'm really keeping an eye right now on this 442 to 444 support. Those levels have been huge lately, and I will say today we got pretty close to 442, fell down to around 442.80, and that break of 444 was pretty big early on, but we started kind of bouncing off of this little trend line that we've had on the chart a little bit here to the upside. I just re-added it. I took it off earlier today, but we had this nice bounce here right off of that. So I'm going to be watching this for tomorrow. If we get under that 442 support, that'll be a huge spot, not just because of the trend line, just as support in general. And to the upside tomorrow, Mike, we're going to be testing this 446 area. The market seemed like it was trying to close a little higher today. I know it didn't quite get green, but those recoveries were pretty good. Even like we talked about with Apple, Tesla, and a couple others trying to get back up there into the green. So I'll be curious to see what happens tomorrow, Mike. It's going to be an interesting shift here because I feel like that the market is ready to sell off. We just need a big event, and maybe that'll come next week with one of those CPI readings or maybe even some bigger earnings. But I will say, though, the CPI is going to be pretty dang important.
No doubt about that, as always, right? But the way I'm seeing the market right now is kind of just like, I guess what you can say, if you could just like picture like a bunch of fireworks right now, and it's just like waiting for that one spark or that one flame to really light things off, right? Kind of like what you were saying. Like looking at the market right now, believe it or not, it has been flat for like 2 years now. And in terms of like highs, the market has just been making lower highs since 2022. And then the recent high was at the end of July. So, we're just kind of seeing like a slow grind down right now. I'm not really expecting like a biblical crash or anything like that, but I really would not be surprised if we just saw like a little bit of a slow grind lower until we saw until we had like a spark to, get things, get things flowing, we could say. And I really liked how you brought up that CPI report next week, because we both know very well that that can easily get things going.
Yeah, it can, and they're looking to have inflation actually go up a little bit. And if that's the case, I mean, that's going to be pretty bad to see as far as the economy goes. Plus, the jobs numbers have been getting a little bit worse lately as well. So I can't wait to see what happens as far as the data goes, Mike. And the price action, there's still a lot of opportunities out there too. So like keep that in mind. Just because the market's choppy doesn't mean that there's not opportunities. Even on the SPY today, it bounced off that 442.80-ish support. I was actually waiting for a breakdown there, and it never happened, but it was like right there today. And then we got that big explosion off that support. A bunch of buyers must have came in there, but it was a crazy bounce there. That was an opportunity. There was a lot of opportunities on Tesla's recovery too. I know there were a few guys in Discord who really benefited on this recovery, and then even some banks had some bad moves, like Bank of America, JP Morgan, a few others. Citigroup had another bloody day again. Like it's been rough lately for the banks too.
Exactly. I'll tell you one thing. One stock I'm watching very closely right now is Disney. It just made like a brand new 10-year low today. This stock is getting hammered right now. And I'll tell you, I know there's sure a lot of hate with this stock, but when it falls from, $203 all the way down to 80, at this price point, I definitely like the risk reward to the upside, not just because how far off it is from the high, but of course other factors as well. We're still very, very, very close to that COVID low as well, which is a giant support point. So I will tell you, over the next couple days, next couple weeks, I am looking at Disney in a pretty bullish way.
I do too. That support from 2014 and then the COVID low is huge here, like right around $80. So keep your eyes on it, give or take $1 or so. I think it technically got like down to 79 or 78.80, somewhere around there. So keep your eyes on that support. Should be pretty big, Mike. I'm curious to see if it holds it or if it gets a big break. But with my next play, I'm going with Boeing to the downside. I'm watching a key trend line on them. We go out to the hourly chart. They've been actually on a pretty good uptrend lately, but as of the past few weeks, they've been starting to fall down, and they're testing some big support. So if they fall under 215, I will be looking at puts and looking at the book map. You can see 215 is a huge support on Boeing. If you guys want access to book map, check out the link down below. We'll post a couple videos in the comments as well. But man, Mike, book map's awesome. You can see these buyers where they're coming in intraday. Like look at that intraday bounce on Boeing right at 215.50. You can see some liquidity coming in there intraday, and then we got there, we tested it, had a nice intraday bounce back up. That could have been a nice opportunity off of that support from earlier in the morning. So I love it, Mike. There's a lot of opportunities for day trading with this, as well as identifying huge support. So keep your eyes on it. Check out that link down below. Bookmap is awesome.
There we go. All right, another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Tilray. Now, this stock is super crazy, and I'll tell you, it has just been lurking in the background over the past couple days. This stock started blasting to the upside last week off of some positive news related to marijuana classification and all that stuff. And basically, the stock has just been kind of chill over the past 2 days, but the volume's still strong, and the crazy potential for this one is still there. So I will have a pretty close eye on Tilray to the upside for the next couple days. This stock is literally the definition of crazy, especially when it has news and volume. So the more volume, the more upside potential with this one.
Yeah, and I feel like, Mike, it's just waiting for like more news on the scheduling or something, and then we'll get that huge rocket ship coming back in again, and you never know when that news is going to necessarily come out. So it's one of those stocks to keep an eye on, and I'll be honest, I'm holding some shares of it, hoping that over the longer term it goes up. I'm going to like set that one and forget it. But I love that stock, Mike. So much fun. With my next play, I'm going with Amazon. They had a great run today to the upside, up 1.84%, and they actually started breaking one of their downward trends, which is pretty interesting. And they had a huge run off of that today. I'm not sure if it was the trend or if they were just following the recovery back up, but they like really led the way in a lot of ways here. If they break above 138.05 tomorrow morning, I'll look at a continuation up to around 139 to 140. I think that's a solid target and could be a good scalping opportunity.
Beautiful. Alrighty, well, it's now about that time for the momentum plays, and with the first one, we have Tesla to the upside.
TSLA, pretty good recovery today, Mike. If they get above that intraday resistance right around 250, 250, go ahead and look at calls.
All right, with the next one, we have Meta to the downside, and Tom, this stock was all over the place today.
Oh my gosh, early on, people thought it was going to be like Amazon, and keep like running up all day. And then, oh my gosh, it tanked over. If they end up falling down under 297 again, go ahead and look at those puts. This thing is so overextended and it's having a lot of problems staying above $300.
All right, and then with the last one, we have TLT for both directions.
Yeah, TLT's been heating up a little bit here the past couple days. If they get back up above 94.20 tomorrow, look at some calls. If they fall down below 94 even, then maybe look at some puts. I will say, though, it's looking pretty tempting to the upside here with these recoveries.
Yeah, it's like coiling up, right? It's slowly getting ready for a nice big move. So keep a close eye on that upside level for calls, the downside level for puts for TLT, and then don't forget about the downside level for puts with Meta, and then the upside level for calls with Tesla. But it is now time for the big money $1 million trade of the day, and we are looking at KO. That's Coca-Cola. You guys already know that. It's not too often that we have big money trades on a stock like this, but this stock has actually been pretty weak, especially over the past couple weeks, and it's just been super flat over the past year especially. So looking at KO, someone dumped about $1 million into the KO $57.50 strike put options that expire on November 17th of 2023. Right now, KO's right around $58.30. So these put options are pretty close to the money. They have some time. The stock's been controlled by the bears lately, and all in all, it's definitely not a bad setup, and it's not something you see too often.
Man, I'll tell you, Warren Buffett must be pissed with all the Coke he invests in and drink and, all that stuff. I know he's a pretty big Coca-Cola guy out there, but man, in the short term, my Coke is looking brutal. When you zoom out, it's been so choppy. I was looking at this play when it came out today, and I was like, damn, somebody's going against the safe haven Coca-Cola? Like, what kind of economic times are we coming into where someone's putting $1 million into KO puts? Now, I'm sure that, there's big money plays on KO probably fairly often, but still though, that's pretty cool to see here going out to November. It's a good play for obviously September if you're going to hold through there, maybe even parts of October if you're looking for it to fall down there too. But these supports coming up are pretty big, Mike, and if they break, I could see a pretty good test maybe of that 54 level, maybe even 52 over time. Like, it's been going up pretty solid since COVID, but it's just been so flat lately. It hasn't gotten any momentum.
Exactly. So keep a close eye on this one going forward. But looking at the market lately, it's been pretty choppy, and that's all right. One thing I want to say is that sometimes choppy times are obviously unavoidable, but going into the market on like a day-to-day basis, if you are looking at the market and it's just not doing anything, don't feel the need to force a trade. Sometimes the best trade you make is the trade you don't even take. If there's no setups, don't force a bad setup, right? Just sit there like a sniper, and when you see that opportunity come, that's when you have to fire. So keep that in mind. Avoiding some bad trades can really help with the overall P&L by the end of the year. So with everything being said, Tom, hopefully tomorrow is a nice, exciting day, just like yesterday was with all of that crazy downwards movement. But do you have any final thoughts or anything else on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty crazy day overall, Mike, and I know that these tech stocks have been going down quite a bit the past few days, so I just want to reiterate, it's been a pretty, while today was pretty choppy overall, the past couple days and overall this week has been pretty, a pretty big move down. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Apple got choppy again or consolidated, and even like the overall market. So just keep that in mind. It might be better to try to get like some quicker scalps in, or like Mike said, even just take the day off. And, right now, I think that even like swinging stuff like SPXS, SQQQ, and UVXY are a pretty good way to go. I know they didn't necessarily do the best today with the choppiness, but I think that as that selling pressure comes in again, we'll start to see that happen maybe more next week.
Absolutely. So there won't always be a great setup each day in the market, but one thing that there will always be is our nightly videos. So you guys got to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll be able to see everything you need to know about the market for that day. Sometimes we're kind of funny, sometimes we're not. But either way, we always talk about some good setups, some top setups to watch, important news, and all of that good stuff. So why not join the channel? When you subscribe, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. One other thing I want to talk about is today's member of the day. Simp had an amazing post in the Profits channel today. He crushed it with NVIDIA, so awesome job, Simp. Keep up that great work. You've been in the chat for well over 3 years now, and it's awesome having you in the chat.
Yeah, you're awesome, Simp. You've been in here for a long time. I know you've had a few members of the days in the past, and you definitely deserve another one. So thanks for coming around always. And hey, great play today on NVIDIA. Glad to see the gain. And, NVIDIA was a pretty fun stock to look at all day. If we go to the chart, it was one of those stocks that was really up and down, very choppy. So it's really good that you actually got some good opportunities out of that one.
There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's end the week on an amazing note.